The train ticket trembled in my hand as I stood on the platform, my entire life packed into two oversized suitcases. Behind me, I could still hear Ishmael's taunting voice echoing through 15 years of torment. Wide load coming through. The memory made me grip the ticket tighter, my knuckles turning white. I'm Gwendolyn, and this was the day I decided to stop being the family punching bag. Gwen, my mother's voice cut through the station noise. I turned to see her rushing towards me, her face flushed. You're being dramatic. Come home, and we'll talk about this like adults. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Like adults? When have any of you treated me like an adult? Just yesterday, during what was supposed to be my graduation celebration dinner, Ishmael had made yet another fat joke. Better order 2 chairs for Gwen, he'd said, loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. Dad had chuckled. Mom had pursed her lips in that way she always did, pretending she hadn't heard anything. Your brother just jokes around, Mom said now, reaching for my arm. That's what siblings do. I stepped back, keeping her at arm's length. No, Mom, that's what bullies do. You're being sensitive, she insisted. What will people think? Your father is respected in this community. How will it look when they find out his daughter ran away? The train whistle blew, and I felt a surge of relief. That's exactly the problem, I said, picking up my bags. You're more worried about what people will think than how I feel. Gwendolyn! This time it was my father's voice, authoritative and stern. He was striding across the platform, Ishmael trailing behind him with that smirk I'd grown to hate. Look who's finally grown a backbone, Ishmael called out. Though it's hard to see under all that. Finish that sentence, I snapped, surprising even myself with the venom in my voice. I dare you. For once, Ishmael fell silent. Young lady, you will come home this instant, Dad commanded, using the same tone that had cowed me countless times before. This behavior is unacceptable. No, what's unacceptable is how you've let him treat me, I said, gesturing toward Ishmael. What's unacceptable is how you've all pretended it wasn't happening. What's unacceptable is that I had to get straight A's, join every club, and win every competition just to feel like I was worth something, while he got praised just for existing. The train doors opened with a hiss. Other passengers began boarding, giving our family drama a wide berth. You're my daughter, Dad said, his voice softening slightly. Of course you're worth something. Really? Then why didn't you ever stand up for me? My voice cracked, but I forced myself to continue. Why didn't you stop him? Why didn't anyone stop him? Mom started crying, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. We love you, sweetheart. We just didn't want to make things worse. Worse than what? I asked, stepping onto the train. Worse than making your daughter feel worthless in her own home? Come on, Gwen, Ishmael said, rolling his eyes. You're being ridiculous. It was just jokes. Jokes are supposed to be funny, I replied, my voice steady now. And one day, Ishmael, you're going to learn that actions have consequences. The doors began to close. Dad moved forward, but it was too late. If you leave like this, he warned, don't expect to come back. I met his eyes through the glass. That's the plan. As the train pulled away, I watched my family grow smaller on the platform. Mom was still crying. Dad looked angry, and Ishmael was laughing, probably already thinking about how he'd tell this story to his friends. My cousin Barrett had slipped me the contact information for his friend in the city, promising me a place to stay until I got on my feet. It wasn't much, but it was more support than I'd gotten from my immediate family in years. I found my seat and pulled out my phone, deleting my family's numbers one by one. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear. They say success is the best revenge, and I was going to succeed so spectacularly that they'd choke on their words. The countryside began to blur past the window, and with each mile, I felt the weight of their expectations and judgment lifting from my shoulders. I was done being the fat sister, the embarrassment, the family joke. From now on, I would write my own story, and I promised myself, the next time they saw me, they wouldn't be laughing. Girl, you're not thinking big enough. Georgia's voice boomed across our tiny dorm room as she paced, her curly hair bouncing with each step. We're not just talking about opening another basic gym. We're talking about revolutionizing how people think about wellness. I looked up from my business textbook, raising an eyebrow. It had been 2 years since I'd stepped off that train, and meeting Georgia in Business 101 had changed everything. She was the first person who saw me, really saw me, not just my size. Revolution sounds expensive, I said, closing my book. And in case you haven't noticed, we're broke college students. Georgia flopped onto my bed, nearly knocking over my laptop. That's where you're wrong. We have something better than money. We have perspective. You've lived both sides of this story, Gwen. You know what it's like to feel judged, to feel like you don't belong in those fancy fitness spaces. I flinched, remembering the time Ishmael had bought me a gym membership for Christmas, wrapping it in front of the entire family. Thanks for the trauma flashback. No, listen. Georgia sat up, her eyes sparkling with excitement. That's exactly what I mean. What if we created a space where nobody feels judged, where wellness isn't about fitting into some perfect mold, but about feeling strong and confident? My phone buzzed. Another ignored call from Mom. 3 months ago, she'd started her campaign to bring me to my senses. I declined the call. Someone from home? Georgia asked softly. Just spam, I lied, then changed the subject. So tell me more about this revolution of yours. Georgia jumped up and grabbed her notebook. Picture this, a wellness company that focuses on mental health as much as physical health. Classes, coaching, community support, but with zero shame, zero judgment. And you're the perfect person to lead it. I snorted. Me? The girl who couldn't even stand up to her own brother until 2 years ago? Exactly you. Georgia grabbed my shoulders. Because you understand what it feels like to be on the outside. You know what people need to hear, what they need to feel. Plus, you're literally acing every business class we take. Just then, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from my cousin Barrett. Heads up, Ishmael just got promoted at the bank. Mom says Aunt Jessica won't shut up about it. Everything okay? Georgia asked, noticing my expression. I showed her the text. Golden Boy strikes again, probably didn't even earn it. Dad's golf buddy is on the board. Georgia read the text, then looked at me with that determined expression I'd come to know well. You know what? This is perfect timing. While they're all celebrating his mediocrity, we're going to build something amazing. She grabbed her laptop and opened a new document. Let's do this right now. What would you have wanted to hear when you were at your lowest? What would have made you feel strong instead of broken? For the next few hours, we brainstormed. The ideas flowed faster than we could type them. By midnight, our vision had taken shape. Empowered Wellness, a company that would combine physical fitness with emotional healing. We'll need startup capital, I said, finally allowing myself to believe this could be real. Already thought of that, Georgia grinned. Remember Professor Martinez, the one who keeps praising your business proposals? He runs a startup incubator. I may have already mentioned our idea to him. You what? He wants to meet with us next week. Georgia looked entirely too pleased with herself. Said something about how the wellness industry is ready for disruption? I sat back, my mind racing. This is crazy. We're still students. Mark Zuckerberg was a student when he started Facebook. Georgia countered. And you're twice as smart as him. My phone buzzed again. Another family update from Barrett. Ishmael just bought a new BMW. Wouldn't stop bragging about it at Sunday dinner. I stared at the message, feeling something shift inside me. All my life, I'd tried to shrink myself, to take up less space, to be less noticeable. But maybe Georgia was right. Maybe it was time to do the opposite. Okay, I said, straightening my shoulders. Let's do it. Let's build something that would have helped that scared girl on the train platform 2 years ago. Georgia squealed and hugged me. That's my girl. And hey, who knows? Maybe one day your brother will need a job and you'll be the one in charge. We both laughed at the absurdity of it. After all, Ishmael was the successful one, the one with the banking career and the fancy car. The idea that he'd ever need my help seemed impossible, but life, as I would learn, has a funny way of evening the score. And that's why Empowered Wellness is projecting a 40% growth this quarter, I concluded, standing before our board of directors. Any questions? The boardroom remained silent, impressed by our latest numbers. 5 years after that late-night brainstorming session with Georgia, we'd grown from a startup to a national wellness brand with 20 locations across the country. After the meeting, Georgia caught up with me in my office. Killing it as usual, CEO, she said, now my chief operating officer and still my best friend. Though you might want to check your email. Your cousin Barrett's been trying to reach you all morning. I opened my laptop, finding 3 urgent messages from Barrett. Before I could read them, my office phone rang. Gwen, thank God, Barrett's voice came through. Have you seen the news about Metropolitan Bank? My stomach dropped. That was Ishmael's bank. No, what happened? Major layoffs. They're cutting 30% of their workforce. Ishmael, he's one of them. I sat back in my chair, letting that sink in. How bad is it? Bad, Barrett sighed. He's been living way above his means. The BMW, the penthouse apartment, the expensive habits. He's got maybe 2 months of savings, tops. Georgia, who'd been pretending not to listen, raised an eyebrow. That's not all, Barrett continued. Remember that golf buddy of Uncle Abraham's who got Ishmael the job? Retired last year. Ishmael's been coasting, and well, his performance reviews weren't great. Nobody's jumping to hire him. I rubbed my temples. Why are you telling me this, Barrett? Because he's going to reach out to you, soon, and I thought you should be prepared. As if on cue, my email pinged. From Ishmael Emerson. Subject, can we talk? Speak of the devil, I muttered. He just emailed me. What are you going to do? Barrett asked. I stared at the email notification. I'll let you know when I figure it out. Thanks for the heads up. After hanging up, I opened Ishmael's email. Gwen, I know we haven't spoken in years. I've been seeing news about your company's success. I'm in a tough spot and could really use your help. Could we meet? Ishmael. Well, 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 Georgia said, reading over my shoulder. How the mighty have fallen. He doesn't even apologize, I noted. Typical. Are you going to meet him? I spun in my chair to face the wall-to-wall windows of my corner office. Below, the city sprawled out, filled with empowered wellness billboards featuring people of all sizes celebrating their strength. We'd built this company on the principle that everyone deserves respect, regardless of their appearance or background. You know what's ironic? I said. We're actually hiring for several positions right now. Georgia's eyes widened. Oh, no, 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 no. You can't seriously be considering? We pride ourselves on giving people second chances, I replied, turning back to my computer. It would be hypocritical to exclude my own brother. Your brother who tormented you for years, who never apologized, who might finally learn what it feels like to be on the other side, I finished. Besides, we have the strictest anti-bullying policies in the industry. One wrong move and HR will have his head. Georgia crossed her arms. I don't like it, but I trust you. Just promise me one thing. What's that? Make him work for it, really work for it. I smiled, already composing my reply. Ishmael, I can meet you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Come to the Empowered Wellness Headquarters, 47th floor. Ask for me at reception. Gwendolyn. Short, professional, no hint of emotion. I hit send before I could second guess myself. You're really doing this, Georgia said, shaking her head. I'm really doing this. I pulled up our company directory. Get Kayla from HR in here. If we're doing this, we're doing it by the book. As Georgia left to fetch Kayla, I found myself staring at the framed magazine cover on my wall. 30 Under 30, Gwendolyn Reshapes Wellness Industry. The article had called me a visionary, praised our inclusive approach, highlighted our success. My phone buzzed. A text from Barrett. He's telling everyone you agreed to meet. Mom and Dad are already talking about how family always comes through. Be careful. I texted back, trust me, because while they were all assuming I'd give Ishmael an executive position, something worthy of the golden child, I had other plans. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and I was finally in a position to deliver it. The question was, would Ishmael be humble enough to accept what I was about to offer? At exactly 2 p.m., my assistant buzzed. Your brother is here. I took a deep breath. Send him in. The door opened, and for a moment I didn't recognize him. Gone was the designer suit and cocky smile. Ishmael looked deflated. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair unkempt, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. Gwen, he said, then corrected himself. Gwendolyn, thank you for meeting with me. Have a seat. I gestured to the chair across from my desk, noticing how his eyes darted around my office, taking in the awards, the view, the obvious success. He sat fidgeting with his watch, the expensive one he'd bragged about on social media last year. You've done well for yourself. I have, I replied simply. Barrett mentioned you're looking for work. His face flushed. I didn't realize you were in touch with Barrett. There's a lot you don't realize. I kept my voice neutral. Tell me why you're here, Ishmael. He shifted uncomfortably. Look, I know we haven't exactly been close. That's one way to put it. I made mistakes, he admitted, though the words seemed to pain him. I was young, immature. You were cruel, I corrected. Deliberately and consistently cruel. For years. His jaw tightened. Is that why you agreed to meet? To remind me what a terrible brother I was? No. I pressed a button on my phone. Kayla, could you join us? Moments later, Kayla from HR entered, tablet in hand. Ishmael straightened in his chair, obviously expecting an introduction to a potential colleague. Kayla is our HR manager, I explained. She'll be conducting your interview. Interview? Ishmael's eyes widened. I thought, given our relationship, I cut in. You should be grateful I'm considering you at all. We have an entry-level position open in our customer service department. Starting salary is $42,000 a year, with benefits after 90 days. The color drained from his face. 42? Gwen, I was making 6 figures at the bank. And now you're making 0. I stood up. Kayla will interview you. If she thinks you're suitable, and if you're willing to start at the bottom like everyone else, we'll have you shadow our top customer service representative for 2 weeks. After that, assuming you meet our standards, we'll discuss a permanent position. This is ridiculous, he sputtered. I have an MBA. So do half our employees, I replied. The difference is, they earned their positions. They weren't handed them by Dad's golf buddies. That hit home. He slumped in his chair, the fight leaving him. I can't survive on $42,000. Then sell the BMW, downsize your apartment, do what normal people do when they need to rebuild. I moved toward the door. The choice is yours. Take the interview or leave. But if you leave, don't expect another offer. As I reached for the handle, he spoke again. Wait. His voice cracked. I'll take the interview. I turned back. One more thing, we have strict policies about workplace behavior. Any form of bullying, harassment, or discrimination will result in immediate termination. No exceptions, no matter who your sister is. Are we clear? He nodded, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Good luck, I said, and left him with Kayla. Georgia was waiting in the adjacent conference room, watching through the one-way glass. That was ice cold, she said admiringly. Think he'll actually go through with it? He's desperate enough. I watched as Kayla began the interview. And he needs to learn. Learn what? That actions have consequences. That you can't treat people like garbage and expect them to help you. That maybe, just maybe, the little sister he tormented grew up to be someone worth respecting. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Heard you're giving Ishmael a job. So proud of you for helping family. I showed it to Georgia, who rolled her eyes. They still don't get it, do they? They will, I said, watching Ishmael struggle through Kayla's behavioral interview questions. Eventually. An hour later, Kayla came to find me. He's qualified, technically speaking, but he'll need a lot of coaching on emotional intelligence and customer service skills. And, and I think it might be good for him. She smiled. Nothing teaches empathy like having to help people all day while saying thank you and please. I nodded. Set him up with training. And Kayla, make sure his trainer is Emiliano. Kayla's eyes sparkled with understanding. Emiliano was not only our best customer service rep, but also a former fitness model who'd left the industry after experiencing body shaming. He'd be perfect for teaching Ishmael about respect and dignity. Sometimes revenge isn't about hurting someone. Sometimes it's about forcing them to grow. Welcome to our annual company retreat, I announced to the gathered employees at the mountain resort. This year's theme is breaking barriers, building bridges. From my position on the small stage, I could see Ishmael in the back row, sitting alone. 3 weeks into his customer service training, and the reports from Emiliano had been surprisingly positive. Though he'd struggled initially, he hadn't complained or quit. After the opening ceremony, Georgia nudged me. Heads up, your brother's heading this way. Ishmael approached cautiously, wearing the same company t-shirt as everyone else, a far cry from his designer suits. Can we talk? Privately? I nodded, following him to a quiet corner of the resort's garden. The mountain air was crisp, and somewhere in the distance, a bird called. I get it now, he said quietly, staring at the ground. What you're doing? Do you? The first week, I had a customer. He swallowed hard. She was crying because her previous gym had kicked her out for not losing weight fast enough. She reminded me of you back then, and I realized I was just like those people who hurt her. I stayed silent, letting him continue. Emiliano told me about his modeling days, about the pressure to look perfect. He said something that hit home. The people who hurt others are usually the ones most afraid of being hurt themselves. Were you afraid, Ishmael? I asked, genuinely curious. He laughed bitterly. Terrified. Dad had such high expectations. If I wasn't perfect, I was nothing. So I made sure everyone looked at you instead of me. That's not an excuse. No, he agreed. It's not. I was cruel, and I can't change that. But watching you now, the way you've built this company, how you treat people, how they respect you, I'm sorry, Gwen. I'm so sorry. A group of employees walked past, laughing about the upcoming team-building activities. One called out, "Great customer satisfaction scores this week, Ishmael." He smiled, looking surprised at the recognition. That's another thing. Here, people care about what you do, not who you know or how you look. That's the whole point, I said. Everyone deserves respect. Everyone deserves a chance to prove themselves. Even terrible brothers? Especially terrible brothers who are trying to change. Suddenly, Emiliano's voice called out from behind us. Sorry to interrupt, but we need our star customer service trainee for the trust fall exercises. I watched as Ishmael's face shifted from embarrassment to determination. Coming. He turned back to me. Thank you, Gwen, not for the job, but for for showing me a better way. As he walked away with Emiliano, Georgia appeared at my side. Well, that was unexpected. Think he means it? Look, I pointed to where Ishmael was now helping a plus-size employee adjust her safety harness for the trust fall, showing genuine patience and care. That's not the same person who used to moo at me in high school hallways. My phone buzzed. Dad calling. I declined it. Still not ready? Georgia asked. They need to understand first, I said. Really understand. Later that evening, during the campfire session, I watched as Ishmael voluntarily stood up to share during the Moments of Growth segment. I used to be someone else, he began, his voice shaking. Someone who thought putting others down made me bigger. Someone who hurt the person who should have been my closest ally. My sister. The crowd grew quiet. Most knew I was his sister, but no one had heard the full story. But working here, seeing how strength comes from lifting others up, not tearing them down, it's changed me. To my sister, he looked directly at me. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm grateful for the chance to earn it. The silence was deafening. Then Emiliano started clapping, and others joined in. I felt tears pricking at my eyes but held them back. After the session, Emiliano approached me. You know, when you asked me to train him, I thought you were crazy. But he's actually becoming one of our best advocates for body positivity and respect. People can surprise you, I replied, watching Ishmael chat with a group of colleagues, his posture relaxed, genuine. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Barrett. Mom says Ishmael hasn't been to Sunday dinner in weeks. Says he's always working or studying customer service manuals. What did you do to him? I smiled, typing back. I didn't do anything. He's doing it himself. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's giving someone the opportunity to face their own reflection and choose to become better. The question was, would it last? He's having trouble with Marcus from accounting. Kayla reported during our weekly HR meeting. Apparently, Marcus knew someone who worked with Ishmael at the bank. I set down my coffee. What happened? Marcus has been sharing stories about how Ishmael used to treat junior employees. It's creating tension in the break room. Georgia, who'd been quietly typing notes, looked up. Should we intervene? Before I could answer, there was a knock at my office door. Emiliano entered, looking concerned. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to hear this. He played a recording from that morning's customer service call monitoring. Ishmael's voice came through, remarkably patient as he handled an irate customer. Sir, I understand your frustration, he was saying. I used to judge people based on their appearance, too, but I was wrong, and I hurt people I cared about because of it. Maybe this is a chance for both of us to learn. The customer's tone gradually shifted from hostile to reflective. By the end of the call, he'd signed up for our inclusive fitness program. That's the third call like this week, Emiliano said. He's turning our most difficult customers into advocates. While being ostracized by his co-workers, Kayla added. I stood up, walking to the window. Where is he now? Break room, Emiliano replied. It's not pretty. I headed down to the 10th floor, where I could hear raised voices before I even reached the break room. Must be nice, Marcus was saying, having your sister own the company. Is that how you got away with treating people like garbage at the bank, too? I'm not that person anymore. Ishmael's voice was quiet but firm. People don't change, Marcus scoffed. They just get better at hiding who they really are. I stepped into the room. Everyone froze. Actually, Marcus, I said, People do change. When they want to, when they work at it, when they face consequences and learn from them. Marcus straightened. Ms. Gwendolyn, Tell me, I cut him off. Did you know I was fat in high school? The room went silent. I was, and Ishmael, he was my biggest bully. Made my life hell. So believe me, I understand your skepticism, but I also believe in what we stand for here. Growth, change, second chances. I turned to address the whole room. Yes, Ishmael is my brother. No, that's not why he's here. He started at the bottom, just like everyone else. And yes, he used to be exactly who you think he was. But the man standing here now, he's choosing to be better. Isn't that what we tell our clients every day? That it's never too late to change? Marcus looked down, embarrassed. I'm sorry, I heard stories. The stories are probably true, Ishmael said. I was awful, entitled, cruel. I can't change that past, but I can choose who I am now. Just then, my phone rang. Mom again. For the first time in months, I answered. Gwendolyn, finally. We haven't seen Ishmael at family dinner in 2 months. What are you doing to him? I put the phone on speaker. Nothing, Mom. He's choosing this. Choosing what? To work in customer service? It's beneath him. Your father's friends are asking questions. Mom, Ishmael interrupted, loud enough for her to hear. Stop. This job isn't beneath me. Nothing about helping people is beneath anyone. Ishmael, what are you saying? I'm saying I'm learning more here than I ever did at the bank. I'm saying I'm finally becoming someone I can be proud of. The line went quiet. Then, this isn't like you. No, he agreed. It's not like the old me, and that's good. I ended the call looking around the break room. Every face showed a mixture of surprise and respect. Back to work, everyone, I said softly. As people filed out, I caught Ishmael's arm. You okay? He nodded. You know what's weird? For the first time in my life, I don't care what they think. Mom, Dad, their friends. I care about what I think of myself. That's called growth, Emiliano said, appearing in the doorway. And speaking of growth, we have a team meeting about the new sensitivity training program. You're leading it, remember? Ishmael's eyes widened. Me? Who better to teach about the impact of words than someone who's learned it firsthand? As I watched Ishmael follow Emiliano, Georgia appeared beside me. You know, she said, this revenge plan of yours might have backfired. How so? Instead of making him suffer, you might have actually helped him become a decent human being. I smiled. Maybe that's the best revenge of all. Ladies and gentlemen, Ishmael stood at the podium during our quarterly all-hands meeting. 6 months ago, I sat where you're sitting, thinking I was too good for this job. I couldn't have been more wrong. The auditorium was packed with employees from all our locations, gathered for our biggest announcement yet. Georgia squeezed my hand as Ishmael continued. Many of you know I'm the CEO's brother. What you might not know is that I used to be her biggest bully. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I was the kind of person who made others feel small to make myself feel big. The kind of person who thought appearance determined worth. He paused, taking a deep breath. But life has a way of teaching us lessons. When I lost my banking job, I thought it was the worst thing that could happen to me. Instead, it was the best, because it brought me here, where I learned what real strength looks like. From my seat in the front row, I watched our employees' faces. Many were nodding, some were wiping tears. Yesterday we hit a milestone, Ishmael announced. Our customer satisfaction scores are the highest in the industry. Not because we're perfect, but because we understand struggle. We understand growth. We understand second chances. Georgia stood up, and that's why we're excited to announce our new initiative, Second Chances Program. Ishmael, would you like to explain? He smiled. We're partnering with rehabilitation centers and unemployment offices to offer job training and placement services because everyone deserves the chance I got, the chance to become better. The applause was deafening. As Ishmael stepped down, my phone lit up with a text from Dad. Saw the company live stream. We need to talk. Before I could respond, another message came through from Mom. Your father and I are in the lobby. My heart stopped. Georgia saw my face and grabbed my phone. Oh shit, she whispered. Want me to get security? No, I said, standing. It's time. I found them by the reception desk, Dad in his golf clothes, Mom clutching her designer purse. They looked out of place among our diverse, casually dressed employees. What are you doing here? I asked. We saw the broadcast, Dad said stiffly. Wanted to see this operation for ourselves. Gwendolyn, Ishmael's voice called out. He jogged over, then stopped short. Mom? Dad? Look at you, Mom said, eyeing his company polo and khakis. Working in customer service. What will people think? They'll think I'm doing honest work, Ishmael replied. Making a difference. A difference? Dad scoffed. By helping fat people feel good about themselves? The lobby went quiet. I saw Emiliano step forward, but Ishmael held up a hand. No, Dad, he said firmly. By helping people understand their worth isn't determined by their size, their background, or their father's golf buddies. How dare you, Dad started, but Ishmael continued. I used to be just like you, judgmental, cruel, caring more about appearances than actual worth. But Gwen, he looked at me. She gave me a chance to learn better, to be better. By humiliating you? Mom demanded. By showing me respect, Ishmael corrected. Something I never showed her, something you never taught me to show her. Dad's face reddened. We gave you everything. You gave me permission to be awful. I finally spoke up. You taught him it was okay to hurt me as long as he looked good doing it. We never, Mom began. You did, Ishmael interrupted. Every time you laughed at my jokes, every time you told her to toughen up, every time you chose my success over her pain. Security had quietly positioned themselves nearby, but they weren't needed. Dad looked around the lobby, at the employees watching, at the wall of success stories showing transformations both physical and emotional. This is really what you want? He asked Ishmael. To work for your little sister? No, Ishmael said. I want to work with my sister. There's a difference. And yes, this is exactly what I want. Mom started crying. Dad put his arm around her, looking lost. I think you should go, I said quietly. But when you're ready to really talk about everything, you know where to find us. As they left, Emiliano approached. You okay? Actually, I said, surprised to find it was true. I am. Both of us are. Ishmael nodded. For the first time, I feel free. Georgia appeared with a tablet. Well, good, because the Second Chances program already has 50 applications. Ready to review them? Together? Ishmael asked me. I smiled. Together. Because sometimes karma doesn't just come full circle. It opens up entirely new paths, leading to places you never expected to find healing. And the Wellness Industry Innovation Award goes to Empowered Wellness's Second Chances program. The ballroom erupted in applause as Ishmael and I walked to the stage together. Under the bright lights, I could see our team cheering. Georgia, Emiliano, Kayla, and dozens of others who'd made this possible. Thank you, I began, gripping the podium. But the real winners are our program participants. People who, like my brother and me, discovered that change isn't just possible, it's transformative. Ishmael stepped forward. When my sister offered me a job, I thought it was revenge. Instead, it was redemption. And now we've helped over 500 people find their own path to redemption. As we left the stage, Georgia rushed up with her phone. Your parents just posted on LinkedIn. You might want to see this. The post showed a photo of us accepting the award with the caption, "Proud of our children, Gwendolyn and Ishmael, for showing us what real success looks like. We were wrong. We're learning." Proud parents, or second chances. They posted that publicly? Ishmael whispered. There's more. Georgia scrolled down. They've signed up for our family counseling program. I felt my throat tighten. When? This morning. Your dad specifically requested Marcus as their wellness coach. I couldn't help but laugh. Marcus, who'd once confronted Ishmael about his past, had become one of our most effective counselors for families dealing with body-shaming issues. Speaking of family, Emiliano appeared, straightening his tie. Your cousin Barrett is here, and he brought guests. Barrett emerged from the crowd, followed by Mom and Dad. They looked different, humbler somehow. Dad wasn't wearing his usual golf attire, and Mom's designer purse was nowhere in sight. We watched the live stream of your speech, Dad said, his voice rough, about how parents can either enable growth or enable destruction. It hit home, Mom added, twisting her hands. We've been doing a lot of thinking. A lot of talking, too, Barrett chimed in. They haven't missed a single counseling session. I felt Ishmael tense beside me. And? And we're sorry, Dad said, the words seeming to cost him physical effort. We're sorry for creating an environment where cruelty was celebrated, where appearance mattered more than character. We're learning, Mom added. It's not easy facing your mistakes, but you two, you showed us it's possible. Georgia cleared her throat. The press wants photos of the award winners. Should I tell them to wait? No, I said, surprising everyone. Actually, let's do a family photo, all of us, including Barrett, who never gave up on any of us. As we posed, I heard whispers in the crowd. Everyone knew our story. It had become part of the company's legend. The bully brother, the hurt sister, the transformation that sparked a movement. One more thing, Dad said after the photos. We'd like to invest in the Second Chances program, not to control it, he added quickly, seeing my expression, but to help it reach more families like ours. Ishmael looked at me. Your call, CEO. I studied our parents' faces, seeing something I'd never seen before. Genuine humility. Okay, I said, but you'll need to go through the proper channels, starting with a meeting with our head of family services. Who's that? Mom asked. Ishmael grinned. Me, as of this morning. Their surprise turned to pride. Real pride, not the superficial kind they'd once valued. Later, as the event wound down, I found myself on the venue's balcony with Emiliano. Below, I could see Ishmael explaining our program to a group of investors, his passion evident in every gesture. You know, Emiliano said, when you hired me to train him, I thought you were either crazy or cruel. And now? Now, I think you're something else entirely, something better. What's that? A catalyst. You didn't just get revenge or find success. You created a space where people could become their best selves, even the ones who hurt you most. Through the glass doors, I could see our parents talking with Marcus, actually listening. Georgia was showing Barrett the expansion plans. Everything had changed, yet somehow felt exactly right. Ready to head back in? Emiliano asked, offering his hand. I hear your brother's about to announce the national rollout of our family reconciliation centers. I took his hand, feeling the weight of my journey, from that scared girl on the train platform to this moment, settle into something like peace. You know what? I am ready. I'm finally ready for all of it. Because sometimes the best endings aren't really endings at all. They're new beginnings, built on the foundation of everything we've learned, everything we've overcome, and everything we're brave enough to become.